Sunday Night Football. We're going to jump to this one because of the NFC South implications. Washington Commanders get the win 30-24 in overtime. Commanders move to 11-5, clinch the playoff spot. Atlanta falls to 8-8 and no longer controlling their future in the NFC South here. So they need the Bucs to lose next week and would have to beat the Carolina Panthers to sneak in as NFC South champions. Incredible back-and-forth game. I loved this game, Sam. Again, even without – I mean, they ended up being a decent number of points in this game, but it wasn't like this offensive showcase. Falcons were up 17-7 at the half. Commanders dominated the second half. Falcons came back to tie it at the very end at 24. Commanders win the toss in overtime. They go down, get the game-ending touchdown to win 30-24. And another day, just Michael Penix had his ups and downs. I was impressed by just the cool and calm in clutch situations. But Jayden Daniels, wow, just a crisp game. And he just points in this game where he took over, finishes with 127 yards on 16 carries. His ability to run and creative run game from Washington, I think, was the massive difference in this game.
Passed RG3 for the most rushing yards by a rookie quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah. In the second straight week, Jayden Daniels led a 10-point comeback. First rookie quarterback to do that since Andrew Luck in 2012.
And it's actually funny how much, like, the stuff they're running is some very RG3 stuff. Like, and now it's not seen as a gimmick or, a way of kind of taking advantage of a strange skill set. It's just like, this is how you treat quarterbacks now. Like, if you have a guy that can do that, absolutely, this is what the offense should look like. Why would you do anything else? That's crazy. Whereas RG3, it's like this was seen as some sort of prop to keep him upright and make him function as a quarterback, to the point where RG3 didn't even want to do it going forward. It's like, I want to be a real quarterback. I don't like this gimmick option stuff. It's just funny how the game changes in a decade and a half.
Yeah, it has. I mean, there's some unique design stuff, the ways that they got into QB counter and various things and then just the scrambling from Jayden Daniels. A repeat a million times. He's got a great feel for when to take off. And the Commanders, when they needed to, they relied on him. That's why he had 16 carries. Some of them designed, some of them on scrambles. Made some huge throws. Game winner to Zach Ertz in there. Was a nice throw away from coverage. Daniels just showed up again in this one. Outstanding.
That throw to Zach Ertz, so great throw, but also amazing catch. And that catch apparently earned Zach Ertz $250,000.
Oh, really?
He got a bonus because
that's why he scooped his hands under it, didn't let it hit the ground.
That was his 6th touchdown of the season, I think, which triggered a $250,000 bonus. That was an amazing catch. Like, I could not believe that he managed to keep his hands under that the whole way. I was like, how did he keep control of that the whole distance? And they showed the replay, and it wasn't close. Like, he legitimately in his hands the whole way, never came close to adjusting or having to, double catch it or whatever. Just a clean, perfect catch, and one that was worth $250,000 to him. So kudos to Zach.
Just to go through the game flow here, Washington scored almost immediately, go up 7-0. Daniels comes back, throws a pick. I thought the broadcast, Chris, did a really nice job highlighting some of the sim pressures that the Falcons were dialing up and dropping Caden Ellis into coverage. Daniels misreads it, throws it to Ellis for an interception. Falcons were creating some pressure early on, and so that got them back into the game. And Michael Penix Jr., I thought the most impressive thing for me, I thought we were both impressed with his week one, or his first start against the Giants for the actual throws that he made. For me, it was the number of times he bounced back. Like, he missed some throws. Like, he missed some open receivers. I thought coming out he was kind of a flat ball type of guy. I questioned his touch. I think you see that on some of the throws where he should be putting more air on the ball, and he's just on a line zipping it. But the number of times that Penix came back from misses, including the game-tying 4th and goal from the 13. Let me talk about that in a second. But Atlanta was up, man. They were up 17-7, and then Washington absolutely leaned on them in the second half. If you look at the second half possessions, Commanders come out and they go 15 plays, 69 yards. Atlanta goes 3 and out, -1 yard, and then Washington comes back again, 14 plays, 70 yards. They just dominated the game flow in the second half, and it was a lot of, 5 yards here, 6 yards there, Daniels running, hard-nosed running. I think Chris Rodriguez should be getting more carries. He only had 16 yards, but that dude is tough to tackle, had a touchdown in there. Washington's run game, and then Zacchaeus with 8 catches. Just a ball control, really nice effort from Washington's offense in the second half.
Yeah, we'll get to this with the other game, Minnesota-Green Bay as well. But it's funny how quickly what look like significant, leads can just evaporate. It only takes it takes 2 drives, one for you, one for them, and suddenly everything is different. That drive coming out of the half, this was a wild, it's the sort of swings of momentum in this game, where it's Washington right away. It's like, wow, they've come to play in this game. Atlanta is clinging on. And then you get Atlanta's defense suddenly starts to show up, and they're suffocating Washington. They're getting turnovers. They're putting points. They're running the ball at will. They assume this giant lead. And then coming out of halftime, you're like, well, if Washington doesn't get something going, they're in real trouble. And they chew up half the third quarter with that big drive that you talked about, put points on the board, then get the 3 and out, and suddenly it's a totally different game. Now Washington's in the ascendancy, executing this comeback. Atlanta's not able to keep things going, and it becomes this back and forth late in the game. But it felt for a while like Washington was clinging on to this game, and if they hadn't got that drive coming out of halftime, they would have lost this game. But it's funny how quickly it can change like that.
Yeah, I'm not usually a body blows type of guy, but I feel like Washington absolutely wore down Atlanta's defense. A creative run game was impressive. Bijan Robinson running hard, Chris Rodriguez running hard, and then, just mixing in short passing game around that. I thought it was really effective by Washington. Atlanta, we've said all year they just don't have the pass rush. And look, they got after Daniels a few times, but you see how creative they have to be, right? It was a sim-pressured trickeration game. I think when you look at Atlanta's defense, look at what Minnesota did this year. Last year was you always called it smoke and mirrors, right? The Brian Flores defense. This year you have that, plus you have dudes who can win one-on-one. It does feel like that's what Atlanta is really missing, is just more guys that can win one-on-one up front in games like this. Also, Atlanta's offense, Bijan Robinson, another classic game with him. I mean, just the prettiest 5 to 15-yard runs. He has 5.3 yards per carry with a log of 13, again, including 2 touchdowns. They were running the ball really effectively early on, but as soon as they went 3 and out in the second half and Washington had the ball the entire third quarter, Atlanta kind of came out of their offensive rhythm, which was try to run the ball and create, big plays off play action. I thought Penix was big play hunting a lot. He was holding the ball for a while on a bunch of plays, really trying to take shots down the field. And, that part was inconsistent, took some negative plays in there in the second half.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he certainly wasn't flawless in the game, made some mistakes, but, did have the bounce back plays. Almost every mistake he made, he then rectified a play or two later, and right at the death. For them to actually execute that touchdown when it looked like they'd screwed it up with the botched snap. They get down there into the shadow of into the red zone. They run this wildcat play with Bijan Robinson as the quarterback guy, and the snap's over his head, or he's not able to corral it as a high snap, and they lose a million yards. You're like, well, that's the game. That's
all right.
Done.
Yeah, let's discuss that. So it's 24-17 Washington. So they're up late in the game. Falcons are driving. Falcons had to convert a 4th and 11, which, by the way, just feed Drake London. That dude is good. He gets wide open on these deep outs over and over again. That's the conversion on 4th and 11. They get down into the tight red zone, and then that play that you said, 1st and goal from the 5. 2:19 left in the game, just before the 2-minute warning. Direct snap over Bijan Robinson's head. It looked like a pretty creative play. It looked like one that Zach was feeling good about, right? We're dialing this up at the 5 here on 1st and goal from the 5. Goes over his head, and that puts Atlanta at 2nd and goal from the 26 coming out of the 2-minute warning. Does feel like the game's over. They get some 13 yards back. It's 3rd and 13. There's an incompletion. That was one of the throws I thought Penix missed, right? Had Drake London in the end zone, misses a 3rd and 13, overthrows him. So they're faced with 4th and goal from the 13, and Penix puts the ball down and away to Kyle Pitts for the game-tying touchdown. It was just like Bo Nix hitting Marvin Mims. Just so impressed with some of the rookies coming back with those throws in crunch time.
Yeah, amazing throws he made after that screw-up missed, like had a chance to get one, didn't get it, but 2 out of the 3 he had absolute dimes on.
And then the next sequence. I want to get into the next sequence.
That was such an interesting play, and they were talking about it in the broadcast because once ball's over his head, Bijan scrambles back, picks it up. He's lost a ton of yardage, and he's trying to get out of the mess. He could have potentially thrown it, and they were like, and he picks it up and spins that way to his right. Bijan's left-handed, so he actually span towards the side that he would
highlighted.
Yeah, that he would have used if he was going to be able to throw it away. Instead, chooses to try and outrun the first defensive lineman that's tracking him down. And a massive credit to Jalen Holmes, who's the guy that actually grabs hold of his ankles. Even when you watch the replay, the All-22 look at it, once they start moving, you would bank on Bijan outrunning Jalen Holmes and actually being able to get away, certainly from the first guy. And if he'd done that, he might have been able to rescue the play a little bit.
Would there have been an illegal man downfield? Almost certainly on a run play like that. Because it probably would have been a 10-yard. Is that a 10-yard penalty?
I don't know.
It still would have saved you about 15 yards.
Yeah.
Or 10. It would have saved you about 10 yards if you could throw it away. The tricky part there is trying to get the ball back to the line of scrimmage. You have to throw the ball about 15 yards to the line of scrimmage just to potentially save the
but
sack.
Really impressive play by Holmes to get hold of him, because had he broken that guy, he had like 5-10 more yards that he would have gotten back.
So then we get into some more of the game management stuff, right? So Atlanta ties it up 24-24. You mentioned momentum swings, and Washington controlled the entire second half. Atlanta ties it up with under a minute left, with a minute something left, minute 20 or so. Washington gets the ball with a $1:19. They go 3 and out. Sack, incomplete, maybe a pass interference miss in there. There are also some awful phantom holding calls in this that I think, again, the broadcast highlighted pretty well, and it's like phantom holding calls where it becomes 1st and 20. Those are potentially just disastrous. So Atlanta gets the ball back with about 40 seconds left after a punt. So they've got 2 timeouts, 40 seconds to go from the Atlanta 19. First pass, Michael Penix hits Darnell Mooney for 25 yards along the sideline. Now, you're hoping he's going to go out of bounds. If you're Atlanta, he doesn't. But you have 2 timeouts. And they didn't use the first timeout, because once you're at the 40, you're at the Atlanta 44, right? Now your kicker, you don't have Younghoe Koo. Your kicker's range is 38? It's mid-90s here. So you probably need 20 to 25 yards. But 2 timeouts in your pocket, you use one, you could throw a seam pass, whatever. You're a couple passes away from getting into range here. They don't use one of the 2 timeouts. I think after the game, Raheem Morris said he was hoping the operation would be a little bit faster. But they get the snap off at 17 seconds. I don't know what else you could ask for.
What else? You've got 2 timeouts.
You have to use one.
Yeah,
Once you realize he's going out of, it looked like he was going to go out of bounds.
Yeah.
And Washington kept him in, which was good on their part.
Well, also he catches the ball right at the sideline and sort of could have theoretically spanned towards the outside and gone out of bounds effectively, or at least
spun.
Whatever, gone out of bounds in the process of being tackled. Instead, he just sort of braced for the hit that he knew was coming, which is understandable. Like that's an entirely natural reaction. But you would have liked to have seen him at least try and spin to the outside and get out of bounds, as opposed to simply bracing for the contact. But the point being, like at that stage, if you don't use one of your timeouts, you can't use them both. You know what I mean? Like not using a timeout effectively reduces the amount of time so much that you're not going to have the time to use both timeouts. At which point, why not use one of the timeouts?
It's just, again, like a preparation thing. I don't know, but you have to be ready. And I know it happens quickly on the sideline. You're watching Mooney. There's probably something in you that's saying, get out of bounds, get out of bounds. You have to be ready, though. As soon as he doesn't go out of bounds and as soon as you realize that, you call timeout. That saves them probably up to 15 seconds, maybe, of time. And then you're sitting there, you've got 3 shots to hit a seam pass, to hit one of those Drake London deep outs that was open over and over again during these 2-minute situations. And essentially, instead of what happens is Atlanta goes incomplete. But then 3rd and 10, there's a neutral zone infraction. They have the ball at the 49. They throw the ball down the field to Mooney, and there's a 13-yard defensive pass interference. And do you have that on all 22? I thought that should have been a defensive hold.
It should have been.
So it was definitely a hold, and I know somebody said the ref called it a hold and then converted it to a pass interference, which is like the right protocol, right? Because if you hold, it could start out as a hold, but if you keep holding and the ball's in the air, you can call it a defensive pass interference. But I put 2 and 2 together. Penix held the ball forever in the pocket. Saw the replay. The hold happened pretty quickly. It probably should have been a 5-yard penalty instead of 13. But that gave the Falcons a 56-yard field goal attempt, which did not come close.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like it was funny because they were setting up for this 56-yard field goal, and you're like, you know, in today's NFL, that's fairly attainable. Like most kickers, I mean, people are taking shots from 70, right?
Yeah.
Like you expect a 56-yard if it's straight. Like if it's down the middle, you are expecting now a 56-yard field goal to have the distance, and this one wasn't even close. Like it must have been 5 yards short. It's just.
Whoever highlighted the camera was like, you know, the camera does like that, like, oh, we're up at the goalpost, it's gonna go, and then it just drops it in the middle of the end zone.
There was this one. There was another one recently as well, where it's like it felt like a kick from the late '90s, where these guys were like struggling to hit 49 yards for distance.
Yeah,
like it's just refreshing now.
This one's over 50. His range is usually high 40s.
In this world where we're all hoping Dallas gives Brandon Aubrey a shot from 71 to find a kicker that can't even get to 56. It can't even get close to 56.
There's 32 kickers in the world where their range is 58 plus, and everyone else is like 51.
Yeah,
at best. So that field goal falls short. Commanders get the ball in overtime and just impressive drive down the field again. Jayden Daniels with a 7-yard scramble. There's a 7-yard designed run in there. Another scramble for 16. Gets the ball to Chris Rodriguez, who I will continue to repeat is difficult to tackle. Get hit to him for 12 yards, and then Daniels hits Zach Ertz eventually for the 2-yard game winner. Just game flow-wise, there was a lot of interesting things there, and we go back to the timeout management and various things by Raheem Morris. I think that was a mistake. Would have given Atlanta probably a better shot. But, man, can't say enough good things about Jayden Daniels once again and what he was able to do down the stretch here.
Yeah, I mean, he was extremely impressive. And again, it's the rushing threat that's so big. Like for in a couple of games when they've needed him to make plays, he's taken like the 4th and 11 against the Eagles, where he just slalomed through the defense rushing. Like that's so huge. That threat is so difficult to stop.
Even the first touchdown. That was the other thing I wanted to highlight. The first touchdown, they go for it on 4th and 2, and old boss Chris was like, "Hey, this is where they go for these because Jayden Daniels on the edge, his running ability," and he rolls out, and Chris is like, "See." And then he draws the defender and throws it behind him for a touchdown. I mean, the run threat is valuable. I'll also say for the hashtag Take the Points crowd, Washington's all 3 touchdowns, the first 3 touchdowns for Washington all came after 4th down conversions. The first 2 when they were very much in field goal range and passed up chip shotty type of field goals to go for it. And that's why Washington won, was those aggressive 4th down decisions where they converted. And Daniels is a huge part of those conversions, right? That dual threat ability does give them a weapon. They are incredible on 4th down. I think Ben Solak had some of the stats. I always reference that 2019 Ravens, where they were at the forefront of going for it on 4th down a lot and also had this like 80% success rate. Washington's in that range. Now that comes back to the mean at times, but when you do have the mobile quarterback, it does help quite a bit. So Washington winning this game in part because of their aggressiveness on 4th down that kept leading to touchdowns.
Yeah, no, you have to factor that into to any analysis about whether you go for those 4th downs or not.
So Washington's in the playoffs. They could have a 6 or a 7 seed here. If they're at 6, they're going to the Rams. A 7, they're going to Tampa Bay or Atlanta, probably Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, I'm making that up. They're either going to the Rams as a 6 seed or Philadelphia as a 7 seed. Those are the options for Washington right now.
Yeah, it's some like the NFC, I think in particular, has got some really exciting potential playoff matchups in that first round.
I'll also say this style of play from the Commanders. I know they've put up a lot of points this year, but that ball control, 5 to 10 yards at a time type of offense, that could be scary for a team like Philadelphia. They just beat Philly last week, but that can be scary to start to slow the game down if they play like that. So Washington's going to be a tough out, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.